We are Milwaukee.
This is the place we love. I'm Carol Meekins.
And I'm Steve Shamraz. It's our job to bring you local news.
Even when that news is not good.
And while there are issues we all need to face,
we don't have to face them alone.
We know there are problems to solve.
But we'll solve them as a community.
Because we are Milwaukee.
Where we fight the good fight.
And where we don't shy away from the truth.
Today's TMJ4.
Blog Talk Radio.
Now you would think, considering the fact that it's Saturday and technically it's not a work day, who am I trying to kid because literally I work every day, that I would be on time for my show. But shocker, I'm late again. Surprise. Well, you all know me, so you already know I'm late. My apologies to Robert, of course, which we will get to him in just a moment. Just want to do a couple quick reminders that, yes, I'm on the air tomorrow. I'm hopeful that I will have a printout on who I'm having and at what time. I know that sounds bad, but busy week, folks. It's been rough to try to keep up with everything. So my guess would be it'll be another 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time show. So make sure that you go ahead and go over to the Sins Chat Corner page. Check that out. Check out my Facebook social media page that I know that as far as that goes. So that'll take care of that business. Obviously, a reminder, as always, with every show, if you have a film to submit to me, if you have a TV pilot or music video, Art is Alive Film Festival.yolasite.com. Go to the section where we have the Art is Alive Festival Los Angeles, since we all know New York is done. Submit through that way, or go to Film Freeway and look up Art is Alive Film Festival Los Angeles. So that takes care of that good stuff. This is the first time you're going to hear about this morning, and I'm making an announcement later. But we've had a shift in priorities, or should I say I'm just so frustrated that I must shift my priorities. So I'm going to be switching gears a little bit. I'm going to continue to do PR, but I'm going to be doing it for much different purposes. I've been finding that I've been representing clients that are literally just draining me in many senses. So we're going to continue to work with the wonderful people, obviously, at TTAF, which is the film festival in Los Angeles. I'm going to be representing another filmmaker. I'm going to be representing another musician. I like my creatives. I like my independence. So I think we're going to stick with that. We'll have some announcements today about my TV network. We'll have some announcements about the direction of where I'm going. So super exciting and changing time. I want to say a quick thank you to so appreciated to the people that have reached out relative to the child that we lost in the school district, as well as to my dear friend Stacy Radden, who just recently passed away. We talked about this again, and I'll reiterate it one more time from yesterday's show. Obviously, there's a center core subject lately, and that's been we've lost some wonderful people to suicide and cancer. So obviously there isn't much that one can do about the cancer side of things. But as I reiterated yesterday, which I'll say again today, if you're listening to me, if you listen to me regularly, if you're listening for the first time, and if you ever get to a point where you feel as though you're breaking, you're broke, you're alone, you're sad, you're desperate, I have a phone, I have an email, CIN4251, I have a social media preference, I have tons of pages, tons of outlets, I have direct message. Even if you're a perfect stranger, if you're listening to this right now, you're not alone. And never, ever, ever get to a point where you feel like you're that alone. And if you are, please reach out. It's just so devastating to me, the losses that we've suffered lately. So I just wanted to make a note on that. And then the last thing before I get going on my interview is I want to remind everybody submissions close October 28th. Notifications will go out the first week of November. And then December, the first week of December, will be my film festival in Los Angeles. And in case you didn't hear, yes, I got talked into doing a third year of the New York City-based Art is Alive Film Festival. Look for details on that. And also just to remind you folks, I did know that I put up the event page for John Gallagher's screening of Blue Moon. Unfortunately, we're going to have to push that back because my schedule has changed. So look for the date in November on that, as well as I'll be posting today about my doing a panel in New York City about both product placement as well as actual setting up distribution. Just watch for the news because, frankly, I'm still solidifying all that good stuff. Okay, so I don't have to talk anymore, and I'm going to get to listen to Robert talk for an hour. Let's get him on the line and start talking about his projects, not mine. Hi, Robert.
Hi, Cindy.
Oh, it's a whole big Saturday morning full of news and information there, so sorry it took me a little bit to get to you, but I'm here. I'm actually present. I'm in the building.
I've been listening.
Well, hopefully I sound okay for a Saturday morning. I'm not used to being on the weekend, so this is a rarity. My listeners will tell you I normally am a Monday, Friday kind of girl and take the weekends to kind of get caught up on stuff. But I'm so excited that you're here, and how ironic that Valerie was on yesterday. I don't know if you got to listen to her interview or not, but she was here yesterday, and now here you are today, you, in the flesh.
In the flesh, on the phone.
In the flesh, on the phone. So I appreciate you taking the time to do a Saturday gig for me. I truly do appreciate it because it's tough sometimes. So, and I think we get a better listening audience on a Saturday. So I think this just worked out very nicely. So I just want you to know how much I appreciate it. And I hope I didn't take you away from the farm because I assume this is your busy time, right, on the weekends? Or is it?
Well, first of all, I'm thrilled to be here with you, as always. Being with you is a thrill. On the farm, we go, 7 days. Every day is the same.
Right.
The horse got to eat and poop, and that's pretty much every day.
Oh, my gosh. Well, since we started on the farm, that's kind of where I want to start off because obviously, of course, it's pretty rare that I get somebody. I've had an urban farmer on the show who's from Wisconsin, but I haven't had somebody who does your line, which is, of course, you have horses, et cetera, at the farm. So if you wouldn't mind, tell your listening audience, first off, when you started with the farm, and second of all, what made you and your wife want to make this a primary purpose in your life? You know what I mean? Because that's a big commitment.
Yeah, we were living in Brooklyn. My wife is a designer, a writer, and we saw a Craigslist, buy a farm in the Craigslist ad, buy a farm in the Catskills, and we did.
Oh my gosh.
We thought it would just be a weekend or a summer thing. My wife is an artist also. She wanted to have retreats out here. I'm a writer. Every writer's got to be, have a farm that they could get lost on.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was, just the typical type of Brooklyn, oh, wow, the Catskills, how beautiful, big land and all. And then we'd been living together for quite a while, but we actually got married up here on the farm then. And
aww.
As a wedding gift, I gave my wife 2 horses. Because now we had and that kind of started things off. We had no idea other than having ridden as kids, we really had no idea about horses. And we also had no idea of the desperate need that horses have. Horses are being sent to slaughter every day, abandoned, and what we ended up creating was a horse rescue, a horse sanctuary, Rosemary Farm Sanctuary. So,
okay.
It just evolved out of us having some land and seeing a need.
So I have a question. When it comes to dealing with, and I've heard this before, some people will tell me that dealing with animals is a lot like dealing with humans in a lot of different ways, obviously. I mean, I'm guessing you're up quite early because obviously horses don't have a time clock like we do as humans. But one of the things that I want to ask you about is this, because you're a busy guy. You're not just a writer, not just a producer, not just a director. You do a multitude of hats all the time. So, do they sense that, meaning that obviously do you give as much devotion and dedication to them and 100% hands-on, and how do you juggle that? Because holy hell, that's like a whole job day in, day out, 7 days a week, right? Like you're saying.
Yeah, it is, and that's more my wife's job. She is the director and of Rosemary Farm Sanctuary. I'm kind of just the 24/7 volunteer.
Okay.
We keep horses a little differently here. We don't have as many stalls as we have horses. They live in herd groups, which is a wonderful way. And if you come to our website or Facebook page, you'll see it's a beautiful place. Nat Geo did a 6-minute piece on us. The horses live together. They love people. They always run over to us and see us, and we give them. We do have the farm has workers, so their people are with them. Every horse on our is seen at least twice a day, and fed and taken care of and medical and all of those things. It's a big job, and it is also a fairly big operation. And as I said, it is my wife is a director. I do, as much as I can to help around here when I'm writing and doing my other things. So, it's daily chores with having animals. We have a couple of the horses around the house that are older, and, we'll see them all the time. But they are horses. They do like to live together and run the fields and be horses.
Well, which is what they do, of course. That totally makes sense, actually. And the cool part I see is when I was on the Facebook page, and people should know this, you do different promotions and events and things like that, because I saw your $5 Fridays thing, and so I'm curious, is this something that happens on a weekly basis? You do different sorts of promotions and events to try to bring people out there and actually see the sanctuary?
Yes, well, the sanctuary is a 501c3. It's totally supported on donations. There are many, many different fundraisers or events. Coming up actually next weekend, we have Ponypalooza on the farm.
Okay.
Our yearly event, which attracts a lot of people. In the summer, we have open tours every Saturday. And then, there's a lot of fundraising going on because it's very expensive. We currently support over 85 horses. In our short 5-year, 6-year existence as a nonprofit, we've probably helped close to 300 horses saved, rehomed. So we have no government assistance or anything. It's all private donations. So that's
how wild is that? That's amazing.
Yeah. It's an operation. I give all the credit in the world to my wife. I just help her any way I can.
And that's awesome. And you really should be congratulated for that. Anytime I see an individual that spends so much of their time dedicating it to a labor of love, because this truly is, you have to have a confounded commitment to this. And not only that, when you're relying upon donations, it's not like you're fully funded and all that good stuff. So you need to have stuff coming in on a regular basis to take care of this. So that's pretty badass. So congratulations on that. I just think if you haven't heard it recently, that's an amazing accomplishment. And thank you for doing that. And I'm sure that they appreciate it as well, even though they probably don't talk to you, or they do in whatever manner they do, but nonetheless.
Talk a lot.
Well, it's one of those things. And speaking of which, because we are talking about your wife, so you've been married for the last 10 years. So I always like to talk the romance factor on my show. Why? Probably because I've been single forever and at dirt's age. And so I always feel as though having the right partner always is a compliment to you personally and professionally. So if you would, tell us a bit about your wife, as well as tell us how she ended up on the cover of Holistic Horse. That's kind of badass, too.
Oh yeah, that's I am married to a cover girl. I like to tell people. She's doing a lot in the horse community. We're one of the, she's created this place that is one of the largest horse sanctuaries on the East Coast, and so she has a big following. We met actually doing a TV pilot that I wrote and produced in the city way back when, and she was my production designer. So we met on that. So we're in the industry together when we met. And as I said, we married up here, actually on Thanksgiving 10 years ago, so that's coming up.
Oh, my gosh, look at that. How exciting. Are you going to do something special, obviously, or can you not give it away? Because she might be listening.
We celebrate on Thanksgiving every year, so that is our Thanksgiving and anniversary together.
That is very, very cool, actually. And does she ever come to you because she's so, I thought of that yesterday. I'm like, okay, well, Robert does film. So I'm like, I wonder if she ever said to you, hey, honey, you know what, let's take a bunch of the horses, put them in the film, put me in the film, etc. Does that ever occur to you? Because it's such a part of your life and such a base for you.
Well, that is my next film, a short that is, a narrative. I'm not sure
yeah.
if you're talking about a narrative or a documentary, because, of course, we keep planning we need to do a documentary on this place.
Okay.
But,
of course you do.
Yes, and she's an artist and a designer, so she is part of my, when we are doing that work, she is part of that work too.
Okay.
I mean, we collaborate on everything.
Oh, how sweet is that? Yeah, because that's the first thing that came to my mind, and we'll get into that. Obviously, that movie that's coming up, or the one that you're working on doing. But I just thought, well, how cool is that? I also think, to folks that may not know you, you actually grew up in Illinois, which is 90 minutes away from me, basically, which is so awesome. I see that you travel back and forth. Skokie, to be exact, so folks aren't thinking Chicago, of course. And how wild is it? Now, I find this interesting that you grew up in Illinois and then you made the jaunt to Los Angeles at the age of 19. Now, that I find interesting because, of course, I complain all the time, and I constantly say about how you're either a New Yorker or an L.A. I don't think you can be both. There are some that are bicoastal. So I'm curious why you, as a young man, took the leap from Illinois to L.A. at such a young age, and why. Tell them a bit about your journey from being here as a Midwesterner and going off to L.A., because that's quite a jump at a young age.
Yeah, I tell people we were a little different generation. I was anxious to get, I moved out of, as soon as I got out of high school, I was out of my house, my mom's house. I didn't want. We weren't the basement dwellers of now.
Right.
When I was, I grew up in Illinois, in northern suburbs of Chicago. I also spent most of my summers up in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, at a theater camp.
Oh my God. Okay.
I was in the theater, and I was involved in theater from a young age, and film, and was an interest also. And when I got to this point where I wanted to, leave the nest, I actually did live in the city for a year or two, and I was, taking classes at Second City, and I decided I was either going to go east or go west, and I decided to go west. I think I had lived out there, so it was a little easier. I didn't know anybody in New York at the time.
Ah, okay. I get it. And when you're 19 and you're in L.A., and now at the age you're at now, because I see you travel back and forth between here and L.A., obviously. So when you're first there, I know what my experience is like the first how many times, and I'm 49. I'm like, it's all consuming. You know what I mean? They're all very in there. They're a very different climate and culture there. So tell me a bit about what you've learned as far as, I have listeners here that are venturing out, becoming creatives and thinking, I got to get to LA. So tell them a bit about what they can expect and what sort of success did you find when you first got there, or even now as you continue to go back?
Wow. That's a big question. When I went out there, I was a kid. I was experimenting. I thought I was going to be. I thought a little bit about acting, though my passion was more behind the scenes. So I never really did venture that way. I went to school out there a little bit for, I went back into college for theater, and then I went right into the industry. But as a kid, it wasn't hard to do something in the tech industry. I was a scenic artist in early days of music videos. I worked on some of the first big music videos, which was an exciting time. And but when you say what did I learn, I did so many things wrong, or I guess I just did do. Then so many opportunities slipped by me when I was young. I look back now and I say, and I wasn't good at social networking. And obviously there was no internet social networking back then, but we're still in an industry of networking. We always have been.
Right.
It really, other than the fact that it's online now, it can be worldwide. It was still true back then as it is now. People get you work, and it's not really when they say it's not what you know, it's who you know. It's not about It's not about that who you know has to be, the biggest in the industry. It's just that it's an industry of people, and people like to work with people they know, people they're friends with, and people like recommendations from friends of friends. So, one of the biggest things I learned, and going back there now, when I ventured back into I did take a break from the industry for 10 years, which coincided with starting this farm. And when I came back, it was like, okay, now I got to do the social media thing, because this is now. And I wasn't, and I learned a lot from it. I learned a lot from it personally. How to because you can take what you do online and extrapolate that to your life, and again, networking. It's meeting people, how we met, and it's very important. And I go back there now, and right now I'm working on I'm in development of a feature film. And I work very hard at networking for that, because things and patience. Things don't happen in a time frame that a 19-year-old wants them to happen in.
Of course.
So learning patience. Being more conscious of other people's needs and wants, and how both people can be satisfied, both parties that can be can get what they need, and that's the only time it really works. One-sided relationships never really end up working out.
Oh, boy, I totally understand that. I totally do, as a matter of fact. And I also know, because I follow you, of course, that you do frequent and, in fact, go back to L.A. on a relatively regular basis. In fact, you were just there very recently, so I was going to ask you about that. I'm like, how was the last trip to California? Because it seems as though every time you go, you're always getting another project or something new is developing. So is there anything exciting that came from the last trip?
Well, I've been in development of this feature that I wrote, The Manny, and and we're at a stage now. We have distribution. We have everything pretty much set to move into pre-production, and we are working on our lead. We're talking with some good names, and just trying to lock that up and get in the final and lock in the final funding. So we're looking for some people to participate in that, some producers, and but each time I go there, we get a little further. It's been a journey. Again, that's another thing that when you talk about learning, it's been a long journey, and again, it's not a time frame that I would have. I'd like to write a movie and then start working on it the next month. Actually, I'm doing that with short, but you can't do that with a feature.
Right.
Yeah, so I've had to be, again, learn patience and working with people, and so that's most of my time now, besides family that I still have over on the West Coast. Most of my time there is really working on promoting and getting this movie in development.
Sure, of course. And I don't think people really realize.
Into production, I should say.
Well, that was just going to be my point. I don't think people really realize how much work really goes into the pre-production stage and finally trying to get everything all together. I'm doing a film myself for the first time, and one of the things I keep trying to stress to them, and they're professional actors, but sometimes I even wonder if the actors themselves really understand how much work is in pre-production. Just every little tiny thing that goes into the time before they get to step on a set and start doing what they love to do. You know what I mean? It's such an endeavor. It's huge, isn't it? I mean, I'm overwhelmed by the amount of work and the amount of frustration and struggle and irritation and excitement. I mean, it's like a whole slew of emotions, folks. I'm here to tell you, it's like I almost feel like they need to give you a crash course. Like when you sit down one day and you realize, I want to be a movie maker, you really have to think about that. And not only that, I noticed something, and I wonder if you're the same. Lately, when I've been going to movies, and you've done movies before, this is my first, but I don't know if this means I'm becoming more of a filmmaker, but now when I watch movies, I'm not just watching them, I'm analyzing them. I'm literally starting to see, where did it take to get this shot made? Where did they have to stand for that? You know what, I'm picking it apart now. Does that make sense? Does that mean something? I hope.
Once it's your industry, and I work with actors, and as you know, I'm working with actors who are now producers on my next short.
Yes.
I do think there's a little bit of a shock, a little bit of a culture shock once you move from being an actor to a producer, and you realize how much work it is to put a film together. And then, as you were saying, of course, with once you're in the industry, you look at films totally differently.
Oh God, yes.
Why it's so enjoyable when some film just happens to take you out and you can just enjoy it. But if it's not that good, then all you're sitting there doing is criticizing and it's like, I didn't that, or why didn't they do that?
Yes, and I've literally done that. I've gone to films, and then my kids are like, Mom, and I'm like, I have to be honest about it because I do film review too. And I'm like, sometimes you ever just sit and you're like so excited to go see it, and then you're like, all you're doing, like you're saying, you're picking it apart. You're like, maybe this person shouldn't have done this, and they probably shouldn't have done this. So I'm like, I just need to go to a movie and be quiet. That's my goal this weekend. There's 3 movies on my top list. Of course, A Star is Born. You should go with your wife to that because that looks absolutely good. I want to go see the Blake Lively movie with my girlfriends, which is what we were supposed to do last night, A Simple Favor, I think it is. But I really want to see that Del Rio movie, the one with Jeff Bridges, and it looks so film noir. It really looks like it will be engaging and exciting.
It does look fun. It looks like a fun movie. So those are
that's exactly right.
I kind of try and gravitate with what I do also, and I try and gravitate towards fun. I'm not I'm more enjoying movies that just take me out and make me laugh and have a good time than
exactly.
And the other spectrum of even the thrillers or the Marvel movies or the shoot 'em up, or I just want to lay back and watch something that makes me laugh these days. I
don't blame you, definitely. And in today's set of affairs, it's like, oh my God, it's just helpful to get an escape for like 2 hours and be like, I'm going to go off and do this or this. So I totally hear you. I want to talk about something because obviously most people that are synonymous with you right now obviously recognize either the things that you've written, whether it's in a book or whether it's in a play or otherwise. But before that, you did a couple interesting things. First of all, I want to talk about the fact that you used to work at WNET in the new media department. I want to talk about that because I've not known somebody who came from there. I know I'm familiar with that network, and most people may or may not be, so I would like to talk about how you got aligned with WNET, how long you were there, and what did you take away from that experience? It sounds like that would have been a really cool place to be.
Yeah, that was a wonderful time. It was when I first moved to New York. I actually got the gig remotely. And the new media department at the time was really new. They were just kicking it off, and I was one of the first producers there. And I loved I loved WNET Public Television. I thought it was very exciting to be involved in something like that, something that is good for, that's a community service.
right,
as well as in the in the industry, and it was a new industry. It was right when media was being combined with the internet more and more, and what I worked there specifically. I worked on a game, nature game, which was in conjunction with Nature, the series, and we actually shot a VR shoot in Africa while I was there.
Wow.
So I went to Africa to film and shoot VR to create a nature game, which was one of the cool things in my life, and definitely one of the bucket list things.
Oh my God, yes, that's awesome. In fact, so does that mean I can tell my children that you could just develop a game for them, because they'd be all over that? Like if you could do something with Fortnite, they'd be like, he's the best guy in the world ever. It amazes me what they can do in these video things, virtual reality, video games, just the whole technology thing. I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. Just me. It's a little too high-tech for me. I'm having a hard time just picking out a damn camera to shoot a film, let alone trying to figure out the VR side of things. So I'm like, let's just try to keep life simple. Thank you very much. Definitely. So, of course, I had to bring up the whole your integration as far as WNET. But the other thing that I found interesting about you is your very first love was theater. And I have a love of theater as well. And I find that not everybody shares that same love. For some reason, I get the sense from people that they either love the screen, meaning that they absolutely want to be in film or in television, or they want to do theater. It's pretty rare that they keep gravitating back and forth, and I don't know why, because I think theater is an absolutely beautiful form. So tell me a bit about what it is. Why are you so passionate about theater? And then tell me a bit about one of the most difficult plays you've ever put together, because I know you've done a number of them.
Well, as I mentioned, I grew up in theater. My mother was in community theater, so I was very exposed to theater from a very young age. And then I went to a theater camp for many years, and I went into college really in the theater department. I love the theater. I think a lot of nowadays, when you go to New York and you think of theater and you see Broadway, it's a very commercial venue, and the remakes of movies, and it's just not. And people who aren't raised or educated in it don't realize that theater is so much more than that, and not all plays have a song in them. There is stage, there is drama and comedy that is not musical comedy, and I just they are two very different things that overlap, theater and film. Both of them, from a writer's standpoint, you're telling a story, you're trying to engage an audience. They're both creative arts. How you approach them and how you do them is different. Technically, artistically, theater, a play is a different script usually than a film. I say that as one of my next projects, maybe next year, is to actually film one of my theater pieces with very little change in the script. But generally speaking, they're different art forms that are very closely related. Last year, I had a play of mine up in New York for an equity showcase. It was called Basement. It was a drama. Takes place in a basement. 9 people trapped in a basement during the first bombing raid of the next war. Kind of an evocative piece. Did very well. We pretty much sold it out.
Wow!
And that's. I would like to bring that. I think that would be a good piece to bring to film.
I agree.
Pretty much straight over. It's a very realistic piece, even though it's on on the stage. So that is a project that, I want to see if I can translate almost directly from theater to film.
Mm-hmm. It does sound really interesting, to tell you the truth. I've been talking about that myself. I've written 3 plays, and I literally have done nothing about them. And it's not on purpose. I just literally, for lack of time, you and I are both very similar, that there's always something going on. You're involved with 57 different things. And I've often wondered about that. It seems to me as though in a lot of ways, now that I know more about film, oh, my God, I would love to just do a 1 or 2 act play. It just sounds so much easier. So I guess that's where I revert back to you, the expert, and ask you, am I insane? Is it really as complicated? Because maybe it is. You know what I mean? I'm making it sound like, oh, yeah, we'll just do a little 1-act thing. And I'm not trying to minimize, but I'm like, is there some substance in looking for that simplicity within theater? Or is that just not attainable?
Yeah, it looks easier. There are some ways that is easier, but it's just like film. You could take out your iPhone and shoot a film, and some people, and you can get some enjoyment and get something out of it. On the other hand,
sure.
You're in development for a big feature, even a low-budget feature where you're talking in millions rather than in, hundreds of dollars. There's quite a range in film of how difficult it is to do. But that said, even a short, filming, it's still, there's, again, development and producing is a whole process, and it's the same in theater. It's the same on stage. You have a whole different set of variables and set of problems. Renting a place to do a play now is very expensive.
I know. It's crazy.
Unlike film, obviously you want to run with a theater. Now, the showcase that I did was a limited showcase, and it was to, the next step would be to bring it to an off-Broadway production. That is no simple feat. There are a lot of elements, a lot of moving parts. Of course, you're hiring actors for an extended period of time, unlike a film where, you'll be shooting just one day. There's going to be, there's 4 weeks to 8 weeks of rehearsal on most plays or more.
Sure.
Even before they're on stage. So there's a whole different set of variables, and it is not really in any way cheaper or easier than film.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, it could just be perception, because obviously when you've never done it, you've just written it and not put it to the stage. Right. It looks a little different, but I totally understand. I do. Also very cool, you've done articles for Mac-Up Magazine. I didn't know that until I started researching you, and I'm like, okay, tell me about Mac-Up Magazine. Can people see your articles? And moreover, talk a bit about magazine writing versus screenwriting. I think when people use the word writer as a very liberal term, meaning that when we all think about writing, we automatically assume that everybody works in every genre, and you literally do. I'm like, oh my God, now he said magazines. And do you still contribute to publications? Because I was unclear about that.
I was in, as I mentioned, the new media area. I kind of shifted at one point in my career as computers got more into media. I was there when it shifted, and so there was a time that I was in new media, which is basically creating media for computers online. And Mac-Up Magazine was a German magazine, and I lived in Germany for a while. Had a new media there, and so it was natural for me to, I was going to conventions and going. It was natural for me to write about things we do. It's kind of like, you're doing you have your blog and even the radio show. It's kind of a natural extension when you're there to express, to people what's going on. And so that was how I ended up doing some articles for, I did a couple of different magazines. And But they were mostly on when I was in the new media division. Not, and I didn't continue that. I also, I wrote some, I helped write and co-wrote or ghost wrote some books on new media.
Right.
Yeah, as a writer, you're writing, so things come up. You write about them, and they develop into. I wrote a book that was more of a not a biography, but it was Michael Jackson, about Michael Jackson, because
I was going to bring that up.
One of the early music videos I worked on was Billie Jean, and had a little connection there. Not that we were best friends or anything, but
okay.
I had a connection there. So,
of course.
And so you write. You write. I've of course have one or two novels sitting around that aren't completely finished and ready to go.
Who doesn't? Yes.
I think writers do venture into every. I think that if you're really, there are filmmakers and there are writers. Some filmmakers that even if they write a script, they're not really writing. It's just part of filmmaking. Writing can be a smaller part because a film is a very collaborative art, and but if writing is your passion, I do think most writers would end up venturing into every end of writing, whether or not you're successful or you take it to fruition.
Agreed. Right.
You want to dabble in and see how, okay, I have my book of poems sitting there in a drawer, and I have a novel that hasn't been finished, and
he's such a writer. That's so true.
You do dabble in it all, and sometimes it comes to light, and sometimes it's a drawer for many, many years.
It just blows my mind away, too, that whole creative process as far as that goes. I think it's almost necessary for us as creative writers or writers in general. I think we usually are more disorganized. I won't lie to you. I have stuff everywhere. And I'm like, but I know where it all is. So I'm like, I'm not 100% disorganized. I'm like, I just don't have my stuff together. I'm like, we have piles over here, and they're all creative, and they're all started, and they'll eventually get done before I'm dead, hopefully with any luck at all. But I think we all kind of have that same sense of things, just like some of my guests will tell me. I'm not sure what your family background was like, but some of us have all had, I think, some form of tragedy, trauma, something. That seems to be characteristic of creatives in general. We've got tumultuous backgrounds in some parts. We have disorganized homes. We have unfinished written pieces all the time. I also think we're serial editors. I noticed that, too. I'm never happy. Like, I could be completely done, and I still read it again. I'm like, wait, I should have changed that. So it's a never-ending thing. And then get this, folks. I wrote a notation that you put this down the other day, actually, in fact. It took him a whole 4 hours to write a short film. Who does that? I'm like, I can't do that. Okay, so now you got to explain. How in God's name do you take a whole of 4 hours, by the way, not a day, not a week, not a month, 4 hours? How does that happen?
Well, first of all, it's a short film. So.
Well, I get that, yes.
Was part of that post that you're quoting there. The idea was that I'd had the idea for this film, for doing some film that was kind of had this feeling to it for years, maybe for a couple of years, and then it actually happened at your festival at Arts is Alive. I was speaking with someone, and they. Yeah, everybody's always looking for locations, looking for bars, condos, jail cells. Like, why don't you just? We're shooting short films. Why don't you just write what you have, where you got? And I go,
Right.
I live on a farm. I have horses. I'm also a volunteer fighter. I have an entire fire department at my access. Maybe I should write a film and use those things instead of trying to, pay $1,500 a night for a basement in Manhattan.
Well, yeah, that's just it. I think that they go above and beyond that, and I do agree with you 150%. It is, you can make it as hard or as simplistic as you want it to be, because yeah, folks, if you try filming in New York, between the permits, between all the other stuff that goes along with it, I mean, am I wrong? You'd go broke just on locations alone, locations and permits and SAG. That's pretty much my death right now. I'm like all three.
There are all sorts of complications. So I wrote.
Yes.
So I had this film in mind, and what I did is I spent 3-4 weeks writing it in my head. I mean, I had every shot and scene going on in my head, and when I sat down, I just wrote what was. I just wrote it as it played out in my head because I'd already figured every angle and knew exactly what the characters were doing, where they were, and what they were saying. So I wrote it down in 4 hours. I don't know that that was the thing. I wrote it. It was more 3 or 4 weeks of writing in my head. That's the new piece that I'm shooting with Valerie and Rob, who I also met at your festival.
Ah, yes, I know. We were talking about it yesterday, and I'm like, yay, I get to ask Robert about that today, which we're going to get to eventually. I was just so thrilled. And I said it yesterday, this is exactly why I do the festival in part, because I want you guys to work together. You never met each other, didn't know each other, and now look, they're creating. How cool is that? I think that's pretty cool.
And that goes back to what I said about networking, which I was not very good at as a kid. It's a lot of work for me to network. When I walked into your festival the first time, there's this knot in my stomach. I don't know anybody. What am I going to do?
Aww.
Sit in the corner and drink? And it's like, no, you can't do that.
Well, you can, but you're not going to get anywhere.
Right, exactly. So I started just walking up to people and talking to them,
right.
Which is, trying to do what you do on Facebook when you just randomly post on somebody's post. And that's how I met Rob and Valerie. And then we were sitting next to each other, started talking to them, and then I saw their film. And then I saw her again. And we connected a little. I thought they were great. And then I had this idea, and the idea to try and put a film together so quickly, one of the things, obviously actors, well, here were 2 actors who were also producers who also had this incredible chemistry together already. I knew that. I didn't have to build that. I didn't have to build it or guess that it might happen. I knew they had the chemistry together to be on screen, and it just so that's why it was so natural. And it came from an event, exactly what you do, what you've done, which is, putting people together in a way.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome. I do. I'm really excited about that, actually. Val's a terrific person. We had a great show yesterday. It was absolutely lovely. So I'm like, okay. Now I have to ask you, one of the things that I saw was that you actually went a total of 10 years without writing. How do you do that? Because I'm like, if I don't write something, I'll go nuts. So I'm like, oh, my God, you went 10 years. Now, tell us if that was self-imposed or not. And for some, it can take a toll, meaning if you have a true passion for doing this and you're not getting to do it, it's frustrating and it funnels you. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. There were some, actually, I think during those 10 years I actually wrote the short play that became the film that was in your festival, and just sent it off to a theater that I had a connection with because they had a play festival going on. There were some little things that I did during those 10 years, working in with some people. I helped edit some of their books and articles and. But it was kind of a self-imposed. it was certainly a step back from the industry. I certainly was completely out of the industry for 10 years.
Right.
And it just came out of frustration, and as I said, I did a lot of things wrong in my other iterations, and I look back and would have done things differently and missed a lot of opportunities, and I was frustrated at the time. And I stepped back and I did some other thing, and then we ended up, getting this farm, and that took much of my attention for 5-6 years. Well, it still does, but and then after 10 years, it was like, I got to do something. I got to be back.
Well, exactly. That's why I thought that.
Which was, the first time I wasn't living in a major city. It was, it was that feeling that and this time it was, it just doesn't matter what happens anymore. It doesn't matter. I'm past looking for my Pulitzer or Oscar or anything like that. All I want to do is I just want to be back on the boards. I want to be writing. I want to be creating, maybe theater, maybe film, probably both. And I'll do it for me if I'm the only person who watches it. And because it's something, it's something that's in you, and it's something you got to do.
Exactly.
Yes, 10 years there was a frustration, and it did come out of my frustration of not having what I considered success. So I had to redefine my definition of success, and I jumped back in. It's been about 3 years now that I've been back, and I've done. Mm-hmm. I have this one movie in development that is very close to going into pre-production. I have the film that was in your festival, that was in 12 festivals.
Yes.
And written. I have 3 other scripts that I've written. I had a play that was produced in New York. And now I'm shooting another movie in November. So another short. So I've been working, and again, like I said, it did come from rebuilding myself, changing my priorities, changing my definition of success, and learning to network. Big part.
Learning. And that's a big one, folks. And it does, and make no mistake, Robert isn't kidding when he says it. It is a learned trait, because like it or not, I wasn't always the same way too. I mean, I would walk in, I would know how to talk to somebody. You literally start learning that every single person that you talk to every single day could be a lead to something much bigger. And you start to appreciate the fact that never take for granted the person you're talking to and how you could end up being spectacular together. I mean, there's no two ways about it. It's just that simplistic. So it's a really good lesson or a point there. Now, before we start talking about your actual successes, and there's just so many of them, oh my gosh, I wanted to ask this. This just cracked me up. This is a fun fact. I was, of course, creeping on you because that's what journalists do. And I'm like, oh my God, you literally, are you kidding me? You took your first Uber this year? You've never taken an Uber. That just blew my mind. I'm like, is he kidding me? Seriously?
Yeah, seriously. When I took a step back, I also it was right as social media was coming up. And I had been in the front of the industry. As I said, I was doing the new media department when it really was, new to WNET. And I took a step back from social, at that time. And then we came up here, and it was like, and what I said, and when I came out, was I went underground for 10 years. It was not just writing. I disappeared for 10 years. I had no social footprint for 10 years. And that was the 10 years that social media exploded. Also living out here on the farm, we have very limited reception and on cell service. There are no Ubers here. We have horses.
Oh, right. I just blew my mind away. I'm like, is he joking me? Because it's like a shock when someone says that to you, like, what?
And then if you're a New Yorker, remember, Uber, you don't really need. Well, I guess it's not. Now they're doing Uber in New York. It took a long time for them to get into the city, and I'm a subway person when I'm there. So
Me too.
Yeah, it was funny because I was in Chicago, and it was like I'm used to taking taxis, and I said, you know what? I've never done the Uber thing.
That is too wild. Oh my God, how funny! So there you go, folks. Now he actually has joined the Uber generation. That was just too funny for me. I'm like, I totally have to ask him that. Okay, so we want to talk about the obvious, which is holy hell! Winner of Art is Alive 2018 award for Best Cinematography for his film called Sunday in the Park with D.O.G., starring Mason Reese, which we have to have a big shout-out for Mr. Mason because he's absolutely phenomenal. So if you would, please, to those that are listening in who haven't done the festival circuit and seen Sunday in the Park with Dog yet, talk a bit about the premise behind the film, and then second of all, what do you believe about your cinematography that just kind of pushed it over the top? Meaning, tell the folks what makes you the best of the best. Yes, I'm making you own your greatness right now.
Well, as I mentioned, the premise came from a short play that I had written, My Conversation with Dog, and as a play, it would have been taking place with two actors on stage. The person acting as Dog would be not in a dog costume, but this is how theater is done a lot. And I decided I wanted to do a short film, and this goes to exactly what you had said. I thought, well, I'll do an animation. That's easier. Okay. I will do something.
It's not.
Easier. You are so wrong. I don't care what it is.
I know I am. I get it. Okay, I get it now. At the time I didn't, but I get it now.
Well, that was the thing. I thought, it'll be easier. I don't have to have, get the actors up here, the cameras. It'll be easier. It is not. It is just another set of problems. But it did allow me to do something creative with this script, which is have an animated dog. There's symbolism in it, so I bring in a lot of symbolism from artists, from the Impressionists. Obviously, just the title, Sunday in the Park with Dog, references back to Thoreau, and there's also McGree in there, and a little bit of and the Scream. Shout out to the. So doing an animation allowed me, with this particular script, allowed me some freedom that I thought would really lend itself to the script.
Okay.
And that showed. And you asked about the cinematography, reckoning back to my wife, who did all the background art in this, because she's an artist, all the watercolors. So the look has very much came from her. I would kind of consider her almost a cinematographer, because that's what, they paint the picture, and that's literally what she did. So
cool.
Working with her, I think it had a very pretty look. I always thought it had a very pretty look to it, and as I said, I thought that being able to bring in the art and the references to the Impressionists was a great addition to doing this or a great reason to do this as an animation rather than as a live action. So it changed a little. The script changed from the theater script. The name changed, and I was able to put in these references. I had to voice direct actors, which I had never done before, which was different. Another different thing, different than directing stage and different than directing film, as directing voice. And that was exciting. That was a big learning experience. I learned a lot.
Oh, I'm sure.
So,
Gotcha. I totally get it. And folks, just so you know this, and I'm not blowing smoke, obviously I knew Robert before he submitted, and so I'm pretty a staunch believer in if I know you, I can't judge you. I did screen his film. I sent it off to my other judges, and I won't lie to you, he did not win easily, meaning we had some amazing projects with just high-tech technology, absolutely amazing cinematography and special effects for the budget that they had. They really did an incredible job. I was so proud of all the work, that all of you put into the cinematography, not just you. Obviously, you won, of course. And so I was just so elated when it came back and it was you. I was like, you know what? This is amazing. I was just completely elated for you. So you really do need to know that all that hard work paid off. And like I said, it wasn't an easy decision. Absolutely not. I mean, I get to see all the winners, but I don't get to judge you. So I'm like, it was just amazing. So huge congratulations on that one. I was just so thrilled to be able to do that at my festival, of course. There's been other films you've done, like he's got The Wiccan, Psych Ward, A World Away. Tell me about Manhattan Crawl. Of all the different projects you've done, that one just kind of creeped at me. I was like, I got to talk to him about that one. So tell us a bit about Manhattan Crawl, the backstory to that. And moreover, oftentimes when you do films, now are you doing them and are getting distributed, or are these all I want people to be able to know if they can actually stream you. You know what I mean? Go look for your projects, be able to watch them, because they could be listening from all over the world right now.
Well, Manhattan Crawl is online. That was a pilot. That was an idea for a series.
Okay.
Which takes place in a bar in Manhattan, or on the crawl, which is, and that was actually the piece that I met my wife in. She was the production designer for that, and we shot that in Manhattan. And the premise is, it was a Cheers-like premise. Just from more of a urban Manhattan type of viewpoint. It was also it was done quite a while ago, and it was in the earlier days of cable, of when cable was doing when HBO and Showtime started doing their own series and stuff, and you can swear. So it was an adult comedy. So, if you look at Cheers, people in bars don't talk that way because they couldn't on CBS in 1985 or whenever it was.
Sure.
So this gave me the freedom to make an adult comedy where there was adult situations, not nudity or sex adult comedy, just adult situations, the language was the way people speak in bars, especially in Manhattan. And it also had a big hook in it, which I'm sad that it never did get picked up or developed. Was one of the ideas was that there was a band that played at this bar every week, and it would be tied into real bands and selling their music. So it was a cool project, and I worked many years on just and there is one episode online, but it did not get picked up. And at that time, I have the fortitude to do it myself. I did the one episode myself, and I didn't. Now I would have said, I should have just kept doing it until somebody picked it up, but I didn't. I was trying to sell it the traditional way, and but that's this is what happens in our industry. You can't get sidelined one project that doesn't get made. So I like it. I don't know that it would ever get made now at this point, but I'm proud of it. And it's a nice piece. And the one episode that we did, I love it. I think it's a lot of fun. It's on YouTube, Manhattan Crawl.
Exactly. And he does a lot of this. You do a lot of fun projects that are interesting, that add you inject your own spirit and your sensational writing into every project that you do, in fact. And I see the same trend over and over and over again. That's one of the reasons why I was so intrigued. Even before I knew you and I was watching you, I was very, very excited, I was terribly excited to be able to work with you, to showcase your work, et cetera, as far as that goes. Obviously, I'm excited about your current productions. As you started to say, the Manny, of course, is in pre-production, so I'm curious to ask when we might expect to see something like that. And then in terms of, talk about, obviously, the GoFundMe campaign for buying the farm, because people are still available to be able to contribute to that, correct?
That's correct. To start with the Manny, we're very close. I'm hoping to be shooting early next year. We actually do have an actor that you would recognize the name, but we are not signed, and we're not divulging at this moment.
Sure.
I keep hoping that we get that completely locked up so I can promote it, because I'm very excited about it. Again, it's a process, and I just have to keep reminding myself another thing with social media, connecting writers who sometimes don't connect because we're very, introverted people. But hearing stories of this film took me 5 years, my career took me 18 years to get going. The industry is not an easy industry, and it's not always nice. And you have to have a thick skin, and you have to just keep going at it, and and then all of a sudden maybe you'll be an overnight success after 25, 30 years.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Correct. It's one of those things. Absolutely. Oh my God, look at this. This happens every time. I schedule a radio show. We've been on air an hour and 15 minutes. Can you believe this? I say this all the time. I'm like, I must have a really good connection with people, or I'm interesting, or and I'm going to go back to it's my guests that are the interesting ones. Absolutely. Not so much me, but you, obviously. Just so you folks know, the GoFundMe campaign is currently up. It's on my social media page. It's on the radio show page. It's going to go onto my YouTube channel as well. Approximately how long do folks have before the campaign shuts down, just so I understand it?
All right. So I have to tell you this. We're in the process because this happened so fast. Buying the Farm was a working title, and we decided
that's right.
and changed the title, and we are starting a new Indiegogo campaign because we had some problems. GoFundMe has changed its platform a little, so we're slipping over to Indiegogo as we rebrand the movie now called That Good Night.
Okay, that's right. Valerie mentioned that, as a matter of fact. So that's going to change over, and you'll be able to see that. And obviously, to those of you that don't know about GoFundMe, it could be a matter of $1, $2, $5, $10. Indie filmmakers will take anything, literally anything that you're willing to give us. It's just that simple. And I say it all the time because I'm like, that's how we make our bread and butter, obviously. That's how you get a project made. And people don't realize, I think, unless they're giving $20, $30, they think they're not doing anything. And I'm like, yes, you are. You have no idea the impact that you've got.
Absolutely. So we'll get
without a doubt.
New links. The GoFundMe page is still up. We will be shifting over to the new funding campaign and we have a brand new poster and the new title, which we're all very excited about. As I said, I mean, changing a name is not an uncommon thing to happen during the development of a film. So. We're just excited to this thing. It's going so fast, and we decided to do it so fast, partially because of weather, because it's an outdoor.
Sure.
There's a lot of exterior shooting in this. There was a lot to put together in a very short time, but Valerie and Rob are great. They are actors turned producers, and I think this is maybe their third movie, so they have gotten. They're very good at changing hats, and it also helps to work with actors that have produced because they understand. They're not as into themselves. They understand the whole process.
Sure. I totally agree with you 150%.
Yeah, so that's been a great thing, and we're going to be shooting as I said, one of the ways that this movie hopefully will have a very, I won't say a big budget, but a larger budget look is I'm shooting with assets and set pieces that I own and I have control of, and I didn't have to pay for, big time.
Mm-hmm.
Not to give anything away, but there is an accident scene in this film, and being a first responder, I've been on many accident scenes, and I have a whole department, and we do training. So I just sold it to the department as a training session, and so we're going to be filming a scene that would cost a movie, $60,000-$70,000 to shoot.
Sure. Well, now we all see, folks, making a movie, making a film is a component. It literally is a crafty component type project where you need a little bit of everything, whether it's the writer, whether it's the director, whether it's people that fund it, the people that come on stage that with you, the people that actually bring the equipment, etc. It really is a full gamut sort of thing, and you make it look so easy, and I'm so in awe of you, my friend. I am, and thank you for spending all this time with me. It's just been absolutely fascinating. There's a couple of work things we have to do before I sign off.
Okay.
First of all, I have to tell you within 2 hours or so what happens is the episode becomes archived, and then what I'll do is I'll send you over a copy of the Blog Talk Radio link as well as a copy of the YouTube link that goes up there to my channel as well, so that anybody listening in, or if they did not happen to, because not everybody's free at 10:30 in the morning Central Time, so that's why I put it up there for people to listen. I'm going to read off a bunch of different places to find you, so when I get done, if I've missed anything, please just let me know, because I don't want to forget anything. The lovely gentleman that we have spent this morning with, his name again is Robert Rosenbaum. The name of the film, that was the winning film, of course, was Sunday in the Park with D.O.G. If you look for him, it's actually Robert P. Rosenbaum as far as Facebook goes, because he has a personal page, and of course he has a Facebook page for Rosemary Farm, which we were talking about earlier. 2 websites, R and then PROSE.com, as well as rosemaryfarm.org. He can also be found on IMDb, LinkedIn, Vimeo, YouTube, Amazon, and also as it relates to the film we were discussing, ManhattanCrawl.com has its own website. Any other places where people might be able to find you?
Well, at the farm most of the time with the horses.
I meant on social media, silly pants.
Oh, that. No, I think you pretty much covered it. Do you have your private eye license also, Cindy?
No, it's called being a journalist, and trust me, I can find out lots of things about lots of people. So I'm like, that's absolutely awesome. So I'm glad that I got a chance to get everything and get that all caught. Again, I have to say how proud I am of you, how proud I am to know you. You are a very, very big stand-up guy in a circle of people that I know, and for me, that's a high compliment, obviously. Usually we have things called surprises on my show, but obviously, of course, the biggest surprise was on me when I found out that you actually conglomerated with people from the festival, and now you're putting something together. So I'm like, hell, he doesn't need me for anything. He's got these award-winning films, books, the whole 9 yards. He's been on my show, so hopefully 64,000 people will love you, which would be awesome. The last thing that I do on my show is non-scripted, and that is I get to tell you what I think of you. I don't write this purposely because I'm like, I want people to know what I think of this person because it's important to me. And then I'll let you get off on your merry day, and I can go back to working. And word on the street is an urban farmer is coming to bring me some hard cider as we speak. So how sweet. I got to do my show with you, and I get to have a little booze while we're talking about putting together an organic wine line. So I'm super excited to see him. Stephen is a wonderful, wonderful man. Stephen Seafelt, he's been on my show, actually. So it's awesome. So this is what I think of the dear, sweet Robert Rosenbaum. The first time that I talked to him actually was really more Facebook interactions. We had started becoming Facebook friends through mutual friends, and we got to talking to one another. And one of the things that I found so impressive about him is what a stand-up guy he was. The fact that he kept traveling back and forth between his home to take care of his family to me was extremely impressive. Number 2, He was just such a gentleman in word, a gentleman in will, a gentleman as it relates to his intention. He's always very friendly, very polite, very professional, very punctual. These are all very good qualities that make for a very good filmmaker as well as a good writer. One thing that I don't think I've ever told you that I find so interesting about you is that you have such a very high intellectual level. I deal with all sorts of people from all different walks of life, but I find you highly intelligent, highly intellectual, highly intriguing in a lot of different ways. You know, like I said, I mean, there's this one part of him that's exciting because he's got this whole Hollywood type thing going on with writing and plays and film and all that good stuff. But on the other side, he's a simple man living a wonderful life with his beautiful wife on this horse farm. And I'm like, it's like having the best of both worlds, which is awesome. What I think is even more amazing is you are one of a few different people I know that stepped away from their industry for a while and was able to slip back on that shoe almost immediately and provide yourself with substantial success. That, my friend, is a sign that you're very poignant and very perfect in the position that you're in. My hope for the future for you is that my award is one of about 75 that you get in the future. My other hope is that at some point in time that Robert says to me, we should conglomerate on something, because I would welcome such an opportunity when my life isn't so insane, but I'm working on that right now. But most importantly, I'm just so blessed because it's, like it or not, or whether you know it or not, you are really one of the strong influences besides John Gallagher and others that convinced me that there's a purpose for my festival to continue and to flourish and to stay in New York City. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for everything that you do. And thank you, of course, for just being my friend and being here. I appreciate it. That's what I think.
I am so thrilled to be here. I am so flattered by you.
Thank you.
And let me say that you said I don't need you, and absolutely need you. So many things, things wouldn't have been possible without you. So you've
gosh.
You know, you've been a great influence to me also, and I'm positive that we will be working together at some time in the future.
Oh, that's absolutely awesome. I would absolutely love that. That sounds terrific. My goodness. Well, yes, please send my regards to your wife. I'll send out the links to this as far as that goes. Obviously, of course, I'll keep you in the loop on when Art is Alive is coming up next year. We'll hopefully have something. And just go and enjoy your day and your award, and I'm sure I'll be talking to you soon.
Yes, I look forward to it.
Sounds great, Robert. Have a great weekend. You take care.
You too. Thanks, Cindy.
All right. Bye-bye. Tell me he isn't just a beacon of badass talent, right? One more time, Robert P. Rosenbaum is on Facebook with his personal page, and Rosemary Farm it's Rosemary Farm Sanctuary, but it's called Rosemary Farm on Facebook. He is on IMDb, Amazon, LinkedIn, Vimeo, and YouTube. The website for his professional works is prose.com, as well as rosemaryfarm.org. Again, also Amazon, LinkedIn, Vimeo, YouTube, and, of course, the film we processed, ManhattanCrawl.com. And, of course, one more time, congratulations, Robert, on a hugely deserving win for Sunday in the Park with DOG. We do now have confirmation tomorrow morning, 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, would be motivational speaker and creator of Blindfold Games, Marty Schultz. 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, folks. I'm off to go do a bunch of errands and a bunch of work. I will talk to you guys tomorrow morning. Thanks for listening. You take care. Bye-bye.
When it's really good, it's like the first time all over again. The performing arts are crazy like that. Whether it's your first time or you just wanted to feel that way, MKEArts.com can take you there. The United Performing Arts Fund invites you to experience a night to remember. When it's really good, it's like the first time all over again. The performing arts are crazy like that. Whether it's your first time or you just wanted to feel that way, MKEArts.com can take you there. The United Performing Arts Fund invites you to experience a night to remember.